Hi, Pam. Do we have quorum?
Yes, we have 5 present.
Okay, thank you. Kia's not going to make it. Penny's not going to make it. So I think we've got who we've got. So this being the March 28th Master Plan Steering Committee meeting at 7 o'clock. I'd like to start with our review and approval of the March 7th, 2024 meeting minutes. I'm sorry. February meeting minutes. Excuse me. I was incorrect in the agenda.
No problem.
So do I have,
Should be the March 7th.
right, March 7th? Okay,
Yep.
great.
7.
A second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed or abstentions? Thank you. Unanimously approved. Okay, Pam, do you want to start moving forward on a discussion of the implementation matrix? I've taken a look at it. I made a number of stabs at what I thought were levels of funding, but I guess my initial impression is that we have many, many, many high priority items. Whether or not they're high, medium, or low spending levels, and it's overwhelming. And so, Pam, do you want to summarize the conversation you and I had this afternoon with regard to a different approach to this?
Sure. I didn't know how helpful or accurate it would be for us to go through some of these items and assign costs. For instance, appointing a committee to evaluate a community center, that it could be anything. So, and we'd really be making these, they're really guesses. So I didn't know how helpful it would be to go through and try and give some sort of educated guess to the magnitude of cost. I thought maybe it would be more helpful if we went through and assigned short, medium, and long-term timeframes to the goals, so we could assign shorter things that can be completed within like 1 to 2 years that are high priority, and then we take projects we know would be longer term and assign them a longer time frame to be completed for the long range planning, and then we can take those and prioritize them from there and maybe pick 10 top 5 short term, the top 10 midterm, and then top 10 long-term goals. I thought maybe that would be more productive. We had a conversation about how we really kind of feel everything's high and just putting it out there with any sort of priority or time frame would be a bit overwhelming for both committees and staff. So this might be a better way to chip away at things, and as boards look at their responsibilities with the staff, that they're able to prioritize what was felt was more urgent matters.
Okay.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I looked at these from the perspective of the planning board, certainly, and the number of things on our agenda right now, and a number of these things are already on our list of things to address. But the availability of resources in order to scope and ultimately move forward on these is extremely limited, to be perfectly honest. And I think we have to pick those that are of high priority and potentially high impact and address those. The other concern I had in trying to, and I believe my notes are on here in terms of the potential cost, is it's very hard to determine what the cost is with a very, very limited description of scope. Many of these need an initial evaluation in terms of the scope of the effort, both in terms of the recommendation and ultimately the implementation. Although most of these are, look into and address and whatever. But those were my two reactions in going through the list.
Okay.
So yes, in short, Pam, I agree with you.
Yeah, I don't think we should try to cost them.
No,
I think it'd be way too hard.
Right.
no, and Ken, even if the cost is low, I'm looking at where the resources would come from. And many of these come from the same staff organization within the town. Now, clearly, there could be additional voluntary people that come on board to work with it, but I think at this point, certainly my experience in Bolton has changed dramatically in the last 40 years, and the willingness of people to volunteer for these types of activities and sustain that in volunteering mode is much lower than it has been in the past. So I think we've got to be careful about assuming that would be the mechanism in order to implement them.
So true.
So Pam, how do you want to proceed?
I'm happy to take a stab at it and get rid of the magnitude of cost column and replace it with short, medium, and long-term goals, and then almost, I think it might be easiest if we create another high priority table after this, which highlights the things that are short-term, our top short-term, medium, and
Right,
long. Maybe the top 5 to 10 for each time frame.
Okay.
Does that sound
Yeah,
reasonable?
I think that's an appropriate way to do it.
Okay. All right.
Are we thinking about this in terms of existing committees taking this on? Because
Yeah.
I've listened into some of their meetings and they hardly have time to breathe, much less, take on this kind of analysis.
Well, that's why I think it's important to prioritize everything and put timeframes on it. Some of them are won't take more than a few months to do, and then other things are long-term goals. So I thought it might be helpful to kind of check some things off by assigning timeframes to them.
Okay.
And I
It's
think we've
also,
got,
excuse me, go ahead.
no, I think we got to be really realistic about the resources. Again, when it comes to looking at other resources beyond existing staff resources within town government, it's a very, very tricky business to bring volunteers or even to find volunteers. I mean, we have a hard time finding volunteers to fill slots within the existing town committees, commissions, let alone developing both leaders, and leaders are critically important here, coordinators to make volunteer activities occur, and then bringing on the volunteers to do it. So I think for the time being, if we identify the high priority items, assume that they are going to be assigned or we reach agreement with the individual town committees, commissions, and departments going forward. And then if they're flat out unable to handle them, then we can talk about alternative mechanisms to pursuing them.
Okay. All right.
Does that sound good? I'm sorry if I sound a little down on volunteer efforts in Bolton, but I'll be perfectly honest. I think we have a big track record lately of not having good, well-led, coordinated, and sustainable volunteer activities.
I agree. That's truth.
So we should be very realistic.
It's also a possible solution is to think about forming a town committee that might take this on. So not one that exists now, but it could be whatever we or the town considers to be the most critical issues to address, that it might be possible to get a group of 4 or 5 people who are willing to commit to this for 2 years.
Well, again, they need to be focused on particular action items.
Right, yes.
An overall management committee is something that we had tried to have with a 2006 master plan. that was pretty much nixed by the select board. And I think the feedback from Don Lowe, the town administrator, is that that is basically in the purview of the town administrator.
Okay.
To set up such a committee or to make these decisions? I'm not sure what is.
No, to monitor the implementation matrix.
Ah,
Okay.
But again, I'd love to have a volunteer organization, but again, the only volunteer organization I think that makes sense is one that is absolutely committed and has a track record of that. And, you know, we have a hard time finding candidates for select.
Right. Right.
So it's not negativity.
Recording in progress.
It's just, you know, a realistic evaluation of the times.
Tony, just going back to our Solarize committees. So, I mean, that was a very focused topic. Wound up being a group of 6 people, was it 6 or 7?
About
And it was about 2.5 years, but very successsul. So
we
it
had
might
we had a lot of cooperation from the state, from CEC. They
Yes,
helped us a
yeah.
lot. They gave us a grant, and we also had better cooperation from the town than what we can have now. For example, we were able to use the town mailing list. Now there's a new rule that you have to be a 501c3 to use it, so that rules out a lot of volunteer groups that can't afford the time or effort to get 501c3 certified.
You have to have
But
some,
again, that does not preclude doing this in the future as we identify
Right.
individual
Yeah.
high priority activities. And we feel strongly, and there are people in the town that are willing to volunteer on a sustainable and committed basis. And we have a leader and coordinator who is willing to make it happen, then that makes sense. But to distribute activities among a number of relatively loose organizations doesn't make any sense at all to me. And I've
Right.
been through
I
it, folks. You know, the last activity was building the town common.
Right.
And the amount of volunteer support, people and money and material and equipment was absolutely outstanding, but it was very focused and it basically took up 40 or 50 hours a week of my time. So that's the kind of commitment that is required to do a number of these things.
it was a tangible thing too, Bob. That's one of the key things. You
Yeah,
could
that's
see
true.
an end to it. You could see a reward. It's very difficult with some of these things about, general, development concerns and, identifying key properties. It's really tough unless you're saying, we want this particular parcel. That's, I think, the dilemma we have.
Yeah, and without going on ad nauseum about this, there are some of these things for which we have an enormous amount of information already, and with an appropriate GIS manager putting it together, an awful lot of the base information can become available. And there are things, Ed, case in point,
Yeah.
the community center, which could be managed for all intents and purposes as a focused initiative, much like the town common was.
Agreed.
So there's at least one that
Yep.
I can think of that would be worthwhile addressing this way, that would involve town staff, boards and committees, but at the same time could be coordinated and managed by a committee appointed by the select board.
Right.
Mm.
Okay, Pam, do we have, I think, an approach to doing this? And thank you very much for suggesting and agreeing to handle it.
Oh,
Sure.
Ignore
it-
those comments. When he chuckles like that, there's. Okay.
Right.
So at this point, we have handled the implementation matrix. I think the suggestions are great. We need to narrow it down. We need to prioritize it. And then as time goes on, we need to, even with that, develop a more definitive scope for the ones that are of high priority and work with the organizations that are, on the hook to implement them, whether that be the Economic Development Committee or the Planning Board, which is overwhelmed right now, or any other departments.
Okay.
Okay, Pam, you want to move on to feedback on the staff interviews
Sure.
and the implementation of those interviews in terms of the goals and individual actions.
Let me just pull it up 1 second.
Now, did we
So,
finish the matrix last week? Or last meeting? I mean, are we done with the matrix now?
No, in terms of this, I went through it. I don't know if anybody else did.
Well, are we
I
gonna
did.
discuss that now or something
Yeah,
different?
I was wondering the same thing, Ken.
See, I thought you were moving to a different subject, and I'm okay with that. I just wanted to see
Well, okay,
if we're gonna
but
come back to it or whatever.
again, I'm not sure, Ken, other than identifying the activities implementation matrix, there's a whole lot more that we can do.
And we've done
I-
all of those.
To the best of my knowledge, with the exception of some of the elements of climate change.
Well, that's what I meant. I thought there were some at the end there.
do
I don't
you
know.
want me to pull the climate change up? I'm happy to do that. Hold on 1 second. I lost my Google Drive.
Can I jump in while you're finding that, Pam?
Sure.
Thank you. Hi, you guys. I'm sorry I was late to this meeting. And stop me if it's already been up for discussion. I heard the part about the magnitude of cost section is going to be reconsidered. I noticed in the housing section that the priority was missing on a bunch of them, and I didn't know if that was something that you needed input on, or if there's a newer version that I just missed. But when I printed this out and looked through it, which I did very carefully, which is why I was also wondering if we were going to go through it at all in detail. One last time, I know we're getting close to the end, but I wanted to check on that housing section and make sure if you needed input on the priority section of the housing that I gave that to you. And we can do that offline, but I just wanted to point it out. And then I also had just some questions on the climate section. So
Okay, so that's a good point, and I did notice there were a number of missing priorities on housing, so let's just quickly run through housing. And Sasha, if you could lead that conversation, please.
sure. I mean, I would give you they're just my personal opinions on them. So I don't know how much weight that holds, but I had in that first section, it looks like they've been put in now. Some, or maybe they just didn't print on mine. So there's 8, I'm in agreement. So 2.13 I had as a high priority. I don't know if that needs to go back in. And maybe Pam, if you could just scroll down, maybe they're already in there.
Yep.
They just for some reason didn't print on mine. Yep. High. What do we have here? Yep. Low, high. Okay.
Is that good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
And then the next page it was all set. No, so it was my mistake or my misprint. I just wanted to make sure that you had that data in there, and it looks like you do. So I have nothing
216?
further on that.
216?
216. Buy down the cost. I had that as a medium. Or
Medium?
low.
Yeah,
Well, I had I mean, there's not very many of them left to buy down. I guess that's the point.
All right.
yeah, that's one that as you see, I didn't put anything in there in terms of projected cost. And I was at a complete loss as to what the implications might be.
Right.
Yeah, and I I don't have a clear understanding of it either, except I know we have the right of first refusal, I believe, on those. And the selectmen, I've heard them say in meetings before, like that we're not in the business of real estate. So I don't think we've ever actually bought down the cost of an existing market home. I don't, I believe it is listed as a lever in our housing production plan as a goal or an initiative to do that in order to maintain our status of meeting our 40B requirements. But since we're currently doing that, low feels like the right, based on how the town has responded to the desire to buy down those. And based on the fact that there's not many left, and based on the fact that we have met our 10%, or exceeding it right now, that to me makes it appropriately low.
Okay.
I think it would be the Affordable Housing Trust, maybe in conjunction with the selectmen, if it was to be assigned to a group.
Right.
Do we have,
Is the issue here that if we buy down, that what we're doing is we're keeping the cost of those homes low and not at the
Right.
exquisite market levels in the rest of the town?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that the meaning of buy down?
Yes,
Yes.
and
And are we saying?
I'm
we
not
can
convinced that's a
continue
low
to do that?
priority.
Ah,
Yeah, I'm not convinced that is a low priority.
ah,
I hate to see anything that we have made affordable go out of being affordable.
but this is to
I
buy
agree with that.
market, I'm sorry, this says to buy market rate homes that are not affordable.
Right, I'm pulling from memory that these are not in perpetuity. These were not deed restricted in perpetuity. I think they
Yeah,
roll off of their
that's
deed
correct.
restrict. So,
but I agree with Ken, what I just heard him say is that he doesn't agree that it's low priority to continue to buy down those costs or
So-
keep the costs low for those. And I would agree with him that we should be keeping the cost of that small number of homes
So would
below
you like me to
market rate.
change that to medium?
Well, no,
No, okay.
I don't want to change it at all until there's a clearer definition of what the
Yes.
implication is. I mean,
I agree. I think the
If-
selectmen should weigh in on it because it comes from, I
Yeah.
believe, the pool of money we have in the Affordable Housing Trust in order to, when you say buy down, that's a big number.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think
Yes,
there's going
it
to be a
is.
reaction to that in that
Right.
unless we're very, very specific about who the buyer is, basically the feedback from the no additional tax perspective or no additional spending perspective, folks, is so the town is going to subsidize housing out of taxpayers' money. That's interesting.
Right. Right.
I'm not sure I have my
It used to
feelings
make
about that,
sense
but
back in the day, but with this, we're in a different place as a town right
yeah,
now.
we sure are.
Did we not, when these homes were built, were they not under some kind of long-term agreement that they would remain affordable in
I think it was
and
30
that's-
years.
and that's okay. Just that.
I'm
Yep.
not
Has it
100% on
been
that
a-
number, but there was a cutoff and we've reached that cutoff.
I have a
Ah,
question.
okay.
I have
Okay,
a question
so-
on Bolton Woods Way. How
Hey.
many are still left as affordable?
I don't know.
A good question.
don't
I want to
know.
say 13, but I'm pulling that number from memory.
Okay,
Again, this
so-
is all from memory.
This is a specious conversation. Sasha, if you could look into that
Sure.
and see what's left, what the duration of the agreement was, and what the process is for considering them when they are sold by the selectmen, and roughly what the implication financially is of subsidizing that to bring them back down to quote affordable unquote homes.
I think there needs to be a conversation with the select board because they voted down the last one that was brought before the town.
Oh, they voted not to subsidize, not to keep
Right.
it as low income.
Right.
Okay,
They
so
were wrong.
Pardon?
They were wrong.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's,
Yeah,
everybody
I-
Well,
has
I,
an
I don't
opinion
think
would
it's
on
fair
say
to
this.
have
we
this
can,
conversation
yes.
without them here, because.
Okay, there's no, let's not have a conversation here. It
Thank
Okay.
you. I will look
strikes me
into
that
it.
everybody in this has a strong feeling, but it's based on really not knowing what the true situation is, what the process is, what the cost is, and what the original agreements are, when they expire, and what the process thereafter is. So if we can get that in place,
Hmm.
we'll have a sensible basis for conversation and determination of the priority and what the implication is to both the taxpayers and the responsibility of the selectmen.
Right.
So,
Who has that information? Bob, do you know?
well,
mean,
right
from
now
whom-
it's
from whom
apparently
would-
spread out. So Sasha, can you check into that?
I'm checking, I will check into that. I'm looking at, we had 11 units as of when I did that presentation a few years back.
Okay, so
So,
let's put that one in the parking lot for the moment until we have better information.
Yeah.
Again, my comment was needs clearer definition of relative cost of buy-in.
No question about that.
Okay, can we move down, Stasha?
yep, I'm off. I'm all set. I just wanted to make sure those, I'm fine on the priorities of the, well, hold on, let me just make sure.
Yeah, yep. Take your time.
Okay, great. Can we move down to climate change?
Yeah,
Incidentally, part of the problem I had in looking at the relative cost of all of these things is an awful lot of them were kind of look into, which is not a great deal of cost per se, but is a significant additional load under town government staff.
Good point.
Okay.
It was mostly at the tail end of the goals that
You want me to scroll
that we
down
really
further?
hadn't discussed.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's partly up to
Oh.
Sharon, I guess, but we did get through some of the
Sorry, I
climate
lost it.
discussion last week, but we didn't finish it, is what I recall.
Yeah, and actually I looked at the whole listing. So we're this, okay, what I'm getting confused on is the one pager and not this.
No, let's
So-
deal with this first.
We'll deal with that
Yes.
later.
Yep. So,
Pam, can you go back up to the top for a sec?
Sure. The top of climate change, right?
Yes, sorry, thank you.
yeah,
So my question on this 9.1.1 was just, and Sharon, you would not have known this, but we had some pretty lengthy discussions about whether or not to recommend hires for things. And we
Mhm.
eventually settled on that we were going to recommend to hire a grant writer as one kind of blanket position that the town really needed for multiple different sections of improvement for the town. So I guess I would just throw it out to the committee. This is the one place in this implementation matrix that we recommend a specific hire other than that grant writer. And so for consistency's sake, and I'm not saying we shouldn't do this, but do we leave it in there?
Well, I think it's an interesting thought, but again, just recommending hiring a qualified climate action professional, I think is something that needs considerably more review and determination of what that person would do, under what budget they would fall, and how much effort would be required, and what cooperation they would have, for instance, from conservation, certainly from the planning board and others, before we would ever recommend hiring an individual.
Well,
Would this
okay,
be a
so-
full-time position or part-time or?
Yeah,
some
that's what we don't
line
know.
Action professionals serve multiple towns.
Yes, and that, I was going to mention that one because that's one of the conversations that we've had earlier in multiple settings, so I can't even remember if it happened here. And talk to people in Harvard who were interested in it, but their town planner was not.
Okay, so why don't we step back a little bit and reword this to
Yeah.
investigate the viability and intertown collaboration to hire or share a climate action professional?
I think that's a great
Sounds
idea.
fine.
Mhm. That
Yeah.
sounds good.
And I think that establishing a climate action committee is something that actually is part of the other document that we're going to look at. And the one pager talks about that as well. So that can stay in there.
Sharon, do you feel like that should be a separate objective? Should it be separate from
The
this?
committee or
Yeah,
the collaboration, which part?
yeah. So in other words, should the establish a climate action committee to study, et cetera, should that be a separate objective from the investigating of the viability of intertown collaboration of a hired qualified climate
Yes.
action professional?
Yes, it should be separate.
Okay.
Because
Yeah,
it should not
I
be-
would
it should
agree.
not be- It should not be contingent upon. It's something that we need
Right,
to do.
Right.
And it would
I
be
agree.
nice if we had somebody leading us, but, in the grand scheme.
I'm
No,
just gonna separate that later because it's,
Sure.
Yep.
Okay, but my expectation, and again, this is going beyond this, is that were this person to be hired either within the town or among multiple towns would lead that effort among volunteers.
yes, in all likelihood. And by the way, this was something that was discussed. We discussed this with Don Lowe, and he talked to the town manager in Harvard, who was not even remotely interested
Okay, well,
in
again,
sharing somebody. But that's, yeah.
I mean,
We
talked
were
about
having
about the-
conversations talking about somebody who would actually be hired by Bolton, Harvard, and one other town. I can't remember who I may have been Lancaster, but I'm not certain. But we couldn't get Harvard to sign in. Where are we now? Okay.
okay, any comments on 912?
I've got one
Um,
for 913.
Yeah, I'm not sure what protecting property and utilities has to do with this.
Oh, it does.
In what way? Like, are we going to flood or what? I mean, I can see climate change data and resources for mitigation, but okay.
Well, I think it's all about, take a look at the municipal vulnerability program. I mean, that has a lot to do with this, right?
I
The,
suppose it seems,
well, the
Who's
wording,
who's
the
gonna
wording
use-
the wording of the thing at the end is out of place.
Yep.
The town and library website
yeah.
is where you want to incorporate the data.
I'm
and
sorry,
so
where are you?
in that,
912.
the last 6 words of
Yeah,
912 are out of place, that they need to be part of the action, I guess. So I think what we're asking in that is to incorporate into the town and library websites climate change data and other things related to that. But the way that it reads, it's utilities to the town and library website, which is meaningless, in my opinion.
Yeah, Ken's order,
But I think if you move the last phrase up to after incorporate. I think you would be okay.
That's correct.
Like incorporate utilities or
No,
No.
incorporate to the town and library
library
website.
website, climate change data. There you go. Yes, of course. So how are we going to, so it's, we gather the data and we are disseminating those data via town and library websites.
Yep.
Right.
There you go.
Thanks, Ken.
Okay.
Okay, 913.
Yes.
I think that's pretty straightforward.
Yep.
I think it's, just go back for a minute. I think one of the things that needs to be looked into, and that was among my reactions to some of this, is we talk about the state's goals for 2050. You know, what is our part of that? And what is our level of responsibility? Or is this just a feel-good recommendation by the state?
It is absolutely necessary. I've been thinking about this meeting all day, thinking of Greta Thunberg, who said, and I believe it, the house is on fire.
Well, she said that many times, and I think
Times,
a
yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
people believe that, but I think we need
And-
to be realistic about what actually physically has to happen in order to do that. And if you look at the recent New York Times article on where we stand in Bolton with our carbon footprint, it is a very scary thing.
Yeah.
I'd almost be willing to put that in, but that's,
Right. So what we have to have here is both a sense of urgency and strategy. Right? So what words do we need to get across both urgency and strategy? And I think implement guidelines that require, right there, we've got both, we have both of those.
yep. So again,
So
Guidelines for who?
for the town, everybody, however we're
Can
going
we
to do
do
this,
that
whatever
legally?
control we have this, we can, because we make rules regarding what you can do with your houses and
The specialized code,
yep.
Yes.
building code.
Stretch,
Yeah.
yep. Remember that because we are a green community, we agreed to adopt the stretch code the minute it is promulgated. Other towns have, I think, up to 2 or 3 years to accept it. We agreed that we would accept it when it's promulgated. And so this means, and maybe we have to put that in some way.
no, I think, I mean, work toward achieving is.
It's in 9.2.4 for the code.
Okay. Okay,
But again,
so
like-
adoption of the special energy building code requirements. Okay.
Yep.
Maybe
Okay.
this is so are we, I gotta
Maybe-
ask this question. So, because I recall, and tell me if I'm wrong here, we voted to adopt the original stretch code in town
Yep.
meeting, right?
Right,
Yes.
yes.
So how does this work? We're recommending it here in the master plan to be presented to town meeting versus what I was hearing Sharon say is we've already agreed to adopt it when it comes, but do we need a
Yes.
town meeting vote?
We do.
There's
No,
We do for the
no, 'cause-
specialized energy code.
Thank you, Tony. That's where
We-
I,
we
so
have-
I
we
think
have
we
to
have to
opt
be
in.
careful of the wording.
But have we not opted in?
No,
No.
We have
No.
not. I thought we did it at an earlier town meeting.
the
No,
stretch
no.
code we
Yeah.
did.
The
There's
stretch
an
code, but not-
additional specialized energy code.
it
Yeah,
should
so
say
they're
in
two separate
9 and
things.
2.4 there, it should say specialized energy code.
It's
Thank you for
specialized, Tony.
Yes, yes.
Can you just change that?
And then I sent you a bunch of information on what other towns are doing. And, their towns are helping each other get this passed, get it opted in. And it's really quite an effort throughout the state. And I'd like to say that we can count on the support from the planning board to go forward with it, because it's going to take a town meeting
Mm.
vote to opt in.
Well, that's something that needs to be brought before the planning board.
Yes,
I don't think there's much understanding of it.
No.
Right.
Right.
Okay, can we move down to 931?
Yeah, I think that the 923 is kind of back up to that one, which says, get your home evaluated. That's kind of,
That's goodness.
well, it's minor. Yeah.
Yeah, that's goodness. That's fine.
Okay.
Mass save.
That wouldn't be, I don't think that would be DOER, but
Okay, getting down to 931, there had been a discussion about including Still River floodplain in this.
I remain puzzled as to how that really becomes part of our master plan. I mean, it's all state land. We don't have any money for it. Anybody's interested in it, it's our Conservation Commission
Yeah.
and DEP. Well, how are we going to conduct wetland restoration in an area we don't own?
Okay, so what I would suggest is let's knock out that entire phrase, including Still River floodplain. However, at the bottom, it does say collaborate with state agencies. Fish and
Yeah.
Wildlife owns it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that covers it.
You want me
I-
to take out Still River?
Yep.
So are we keeping the floodplain or
Yeah.
collaborate? So we should start with collaborate with state agencies to conduct wetland restoration.
That sounds good.
Yeah, that's
Just
fine.
that, just
I was
that.
gonna
Sounds much better.
think that as well.
Much better.
So move the phrase collaborate with state agencies to the front.
Right to
And
the front.
to the front. Yeah,
Just cut and paste. Just cut and paste.
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't have a mouse, so it's easier just to type it.
Fair
Oh,
enough.
I love mice.
Mm.
yes. Conduct wetland restoration.
Doing it and expand and enhance and expand.
Bless you, without a mouse, how are you doing this?
Okay,
Well, I have a touch thing, but it's a little
Oh, okay.
movie.
And
Okay.
so to conduct wetland restoration, comma, oh, well, okay, no, I guess just that's it. That's fine with the and. That's good.
okay, so that covers Ed's comment from last meeting.
I just don't know that we've ever done that before, Bob. That has not been part of a Conservation Commission specific focus on a property being developed.
Well, I think, for what, by the state?
No, in town, we've never done anything like that. Now we're saying in collaboration with them,
Yeah,
that's fine. So I guess if they're gonna pay, we would love to help them, whatever
Yep.
that.
yeah. Now, again, it's to your point earlier about the floodplain. It's not just the state-owned land. The floodplain is larger than that. So we would have to take that into consideration. Might be worthwhile dealing with Lancaster as well, and they own a big hunk of land in the floodplain.
You bet. You bet.
Anyway, on we go.
Okay.
Okay, 932 is very straightforward, and we're really gonna have to do that.
Yeah.
Wetland buffers, yep. 934. And I don't know what the implications are or what our authority is with respect to expanding beyond 100 feet.
I agree. I agree. I mean, the Rivers Act incorporates 200 feet already.
Yeah, I mean, for anything in the National Rivers Act, it's much larger.
Right.
Pam, could you check with Rebecca on that one?
Sure.
934.
Yep. She
I have
did
a
go
question.
through.
On 933, didn't we talk last time about planting native species that will be native 50 years from now rather than just today?
Ah,
Does that belong here?
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
that's a good one, Tony. Good catch.
Of course, it's all under climate change. So
Yeah.
I think,
Well, but yeah, planting native species,
Long-term native species?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, long term.
put long-term in front of native species.
Yep.
Great. Thank you. Okay, we're going to talk about yeah, 935. Yes, that's fine.
Yeah,
Should have
resilient
done that
landscapes.
yesterday. Yep. 941. It's already in the recommendations of the vulnerability report. I don't think well, 942, I would
Redundant?
just simply put in create regulations rather than a bylaw. Because that will apply to subdivisions as well as A&R lots.
Hmm.
Yeah.
If you have
942.
something have larger islands, does that need to be more specific?
No,
Larger than what?
right now they're very small,
So
approaching
teeny,
zero.
teeny. Okay, so larger than teeny weeny. Do we want to have something that says something a little bit more substantial, or give it some something so that planting two
Okay,
tiny
can I
trees instead of
suggest-
one?
Very simple solution. Get rid of the R and larger, the last R.
Create large. There
Thank
you
you.
go. Thank you. Yep.
But I think the answer to Sharon's question is that the specifics would come out when whatever it is put together that requires. Because
Yep.
somebody's gonna have to implement something
Right.
either through one of the boards or through the town meeting, and so that's
Right.
where the detailed definitions come in.
And it's broader than parking areas, incidentally. Cul-de-sacs are another issue.
Okay.
And that's a conversation that needs to occur between whoever's proposing this, the planning board and DPW and the police department.
Yeah, that's good. Going back up quickly to 942, should we again say long-term native species there?
Yep, good point. Okay, develop landscape management plans for major land cover types. I mean, I think in most cases, this will fall under subdivision regulations, in which case the whole approach that we're pursuing now with open space approach, environmental approach to subdivisions would incorporate that.
Okay.
Do we have within these plans restrictions on, I don't know what they're called, but pretty developments under a single name? What are those called? So,
A subdivision?
a company comes in and builds 15 houses in one, in one, and calls it one unit.
Subdivision.
Just a subdivision. Do we
Yeah.
have within these plans some subdivision rules with regard to environment?
Yes.
Okay, have we done it already and I've just missed it, or?
No,
Okay.
no. We've done it to some degree, but there is a lot of discussion going on right now with open space residential development to incorporate those elements in that.
Okay.
And next month or in May, we'll have Randall Arendt coming in and presenting that whole case.
Good.
Is this the
Okay.
man with the wonderful book of country houses? Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Okay, 952.
I think there was just one word that needed to be changed. Where is it? Incorporate long-term sustainability, climate resilience, and carbon mitigation practices within a zoning bylaw instead of the zoning bylaw? Because I don't know that we have, are we referencing a specific zoning bylaw in this?
I would say just to add an S on bylaws.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
Yep.
That works. Thank you.
Hmm.
Well, and again, and I think it's probably redundant to what we've done already, but this needs to be incorporated and probably will end up being incorporated in the subdivision regulations as well as the zoning bylaws.
Okay.
There's a really interesting subdivision regulations that I really like, and Concord has a right to dry law.
Right.
Yes, it allows people, no matter where they live, including in subdivisions, to dry their clothing outside.
I don't think we have any regulations against that in Bolton.
Right.
But it's possible that actually we do, because Kay, my dental technician, can't dry her clothes even she lives in a subdivision in Bolton, I'm not sure which one. She can't drape things over her deck railing,
Really?
nor can she hang up clothes outside. They're not allowed to do that.
Is that Regency Park?
I don't know where she lives.
No, I think probably that's the only one that has anything like that. And it's a codicil under the homeowners agreement.
Right. But what Concord has done is to forbid that,
Well,
which is, and that's actually, I mean, I would say that it would be worthwhile because clothes dryers are, I think we're right, Tony, are the biggest energy hog in any house.
No, they're not that bad, really. Especially in the wintertime, if you recycle the warm air back into your basement through a lint filter, they can even help with heating. So they're not too bad. And they have now heat pump versions of clothes dryers, which are even more efficient.
Okay.
okay. I mean, 953. I think we've addressed that in more detail throughout.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's a good specific.
Yeah, but
Do you
again, I want to make an impression, but not overwhelm.
Right.
Okay.
I agree.
So why don't we dump 953?
It's kind of covered in 954 anyhow.
Yeah. Nine five four is basically the conversation that's going on right now about OSRD,
Excuse me, what's OSRD?
open space residential development.
Thank you.
It's that wonderful book you just talked about. Okay. Are we there?
That was it.
Thanks,
Pam,
Tasha, for
oh.
bringing us back to reality here.
Sorry, no, thank you for going through it. I think Ken had the same, I was actually just piggybacking off of Ken's statement. Assabet has
Okay.
one T, that's why that's lit
Yeah,
up.
right, quick. Fix Alphabet. Ah,
I'm done now.
thank you. Okay, so we have a wrap on that, and the bottom line, we've just handed it to Pam, who's now gonna whittle it down to priorities.
I have a question on the interviews. Are you going to be interviewing the chief of police?
He didn't respond to, we sent him a few requests and he hasn't responded.
Okay.
Pam, have you gone back and run what you've written up here through the individual town department heads?
No, not yet.
Could you do that, please?
Sure.
Now, I guess I had some reaction. I don't know if we wanted to, no, probably do want to talk about this. In at least a couple of cases, certainly in rec, we had a request for an additional person to manage Parks and Rec.
Because I didn't really distribute this, so I just wanted to explain what I just put it in the Google Drive late today. So
Yeah, that's where I picked it up.
yeah, the interview comments from the staff interviews they're labeled up top who was interviewed and what department they're in, and then the interview comments are in the right-hand column. And then I tried to associate them with existing goals and possible new goals to consider incorporating the comment. So I wanted us just to kind of take a look at this and see if we're in agreement or want to change anything or leave things the way they are. So there weren't too many. Most of them were kind of could be encompassed in what we already have. So I just thought that might help make these comments from staff a little more productive.
No, that was very good. Thank you. One that I noticed near and dear to my heart was Randy Hagman's comment about the trails. And to me, that's a poster child about having volunteer committees. I'm on that committee, and there's a case in which 5 people are managing the maintenance and the development of 47 miles of trails. And that's something that we really need to start beating the drum very hard on, that there are certain volunteer committees in town that need to be reinforced. And it's a whole issue of give back. Lots of people enjoy it, and we need more help to maintain it. Same thing with the Ag Committee. Bolton is ostensibly still, to a substantial degree, an agriculturally oriented, and I won't say an agricultural town, but an agricultural oriented town, which has a lot to do with economic development. Yet somehow or other, we don't have an advocacy group in town for agriculture, things like that.
Right.
Are there some places on this screen that we should be seeing something like this? I mean, can we scroll down? Is this this is not Parks and Rec you're talking
Yeah,
about?
it is.
It is. So is there more to this screen, Pam?
Well, I was just gonna go through the middle column to see
Oh, okay. Okay. You see.
if we're okay with changing these things in the implementation table.
And basically, this one is saying we're going to add a staffing, something that needs to include staffing.
That was the comment, but we already had a goal that said a need assessment needs to be done. So I just
Lumped in.
included that
Yep.
last bolded line. This shall include facility maintenance and staffing assessments.
Okay.
Because
But-
there
Yeah.
was some concern expressed from staff about the maintenance of the fields as well as the lack of facilities and staffing, so
Right.
I
Nice.
just included that. And if that's okay, I'll go back to the implementation table and can add that bolded line.
The dilemma with 531 is that we just approved Lisa to become a full-time town employee. So it's probably some sensitivity about saying, and now you want an assistant on top of that. I mean, the reality is I've had very weak members for a long time now. Very, very weak members who sometimes don't show up for meetings and do less in the field. And so I know Lisa's feeling that and, is asking now for like another staff person. We do not have that as a priority on Parks and Rec. That's just her view of things, but it's her frustration that she would hope that the Parks and Rec Commission volunteers did more, and they don't. So again, from a sensitivity standpoint, having just gotten a full-time staff member, it probably is going to take a while to get somebody else added to the staffing.
Well, that's a good point. And I think when I look at what needs to be done in the town and how things have changed in terms of resident volunteerism, perhaps an overarching goal is to reestablish volunteerism in Bolton. That's
Yeah.
Mm,
but I mean, again, I'm an old white guy.
No.
When I showed up in this town in 1976, most of the town was run voluntarily.
Yeah, isn't that true? Isn't that true? No town administrator until 1999.
But I think that
Really?
we need,
True story.
that's
Right.
something that we need to, and I'm not sure exactly how to do it, develop a strategy to make people realize how important this is to the town and start reaching out individually to people with the appropriate abilities and experience to join committees.
I'm with you.
mm. I think it's really easy for people who are themselves busy, to see the town look like it's running perfectly well, and isn't that nice?
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, one of the things that I may, since we're likely to have a newly constructed select board, is to bring up a topic about changing the town meeting time to a Saturday afternoon or a Saturday morning.
Like,
Um,
it's-
and Harvard has done that, and they've done it really well by simply agreeing to it, and all of the sports teams do not plan, or maybe the better way of saying it is none of the sports teams plan any events or games that afternoon or
Right.
morning, whatever it's morning or afternoon, I can't remember.
I believe Stowe did that as well.
And we would be able to get more people.
Well, I think that's probably an appropriate goal.
We tried it 25,
Many times.
30 years ago or something like that. And I'm only aware, I think, of 2 town meetings that have been on Saturdays. I
And
mean, when we first proposed it.
Yeah.
The biggest complaint that we got was a religious one.
So
And so,
so having it on a Saturday morning would have that same,
that was the view, was that having it on a Saturday or a Sunday.
well, or a Sunday
interfered with
is a whole
religion.
different thing. Yeah. If you say Saturday
Well,
or
but
Sunday.
they were including, but people were including Saturday.
Okay.
That
Well,
may
let's
be that it was
try
a
it again.
minority, but it's
Yeah.
still.
Let's try it again. I think we could do that.
It's
Actually,
certainly worth discussing again. There's no
Yes.
question about that.
I think one concern, it's Kristen, I'm sorry, I've been listening in, but I think, and maybe Stasha, you can see what you think on this. I think one concern is a lot of parents have their kids on the weekends, obviously, but a lot of the kids are in activities that aren't necessarily school related. Like there's just a ton of things happening on weekends, and a lot of kids, I know kids on traveling teams, on, you know, you name it, they're just booked solid all weekend long. These parents are. That's my experience, but I don't know, Sasha.
Sure, I can weigh in.
Mhm.
My personal opinion, or my experience as a parent, a child, and a whatever I am now in this town, is that you're never going to make everybody happy. It's a question of prioritizing the town meeting as something that you move your schedule around to attend. And I think any day that you choose it, there's going to be people that can come and people that can't. It's not going to make everybody happy. And I can appreciate all the conversation around trying to make it better. And I think when you're in the group that it's not convenient for, you're more vocal because you're like, oh, I could do a Saturday. I think you're going to have people that say Saturday, to Ken's point, that there's this and this reason now that I can't go on Saturday. At the end of the day, we all just need to prioritize it or not. And that's my personal opinion.
And it's possible that we could actually do a town survey.
Oh, we've done
We
them.
did.
We've done that too, but we
did.
could do it again.
We've done them multiple.
What was the result of
Is
that?
this something we're going to incorporate into the master plan, though?
No.
Yes, no.
Okay.
we're not.
Thank you, Pam.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Can
Got
we-
distracted.
Move on.
Moving ahead.
Yeah.
Important
Just about
topic,
to
but
write-
maybe not relevant.
But we do have a survey.
I was
We're
just about-
saying we have 609 responses to that question on our survey online, because we asked that question in our master planning survey. So it's worth taking a
That's
look at
right.
what, I forget what the result is. I have like papers all around me right now,
Right.
but but I don't know where the survey is.
Okay, here we go. Moving
Okay.
right along, as we say.
Okay, and this was another comment that came from Lisa. Investigate partnering with Lancaster on use of the former RFK property for recreation.
Ah.
I thought that was interesting.
Well, it's kind of in the hands of the state right now. It's the whole business that we've been asking now for easily 2 years, if not 3, even just talking to them about a small slice of that RFK land. And it's all tied up in the legislature is what we keep hearing. Don Lowe has met with the property manager from Boston, and we keep hearing, oh, we're waiting for the legislature, waiting for the legislature. I don't know. It would be wonderful. There's no doubt. The question is, when does that RFK land become available, so to speak, for the towns?
So is it worth leaving in there to look at in the future?
Sure. It doesn't
Yeah.
hurt.
Or
anything.
adding it, I should say.
Yep, doesn't hurt
Okay.
anything.
Yeah,
Because this
Fine.
document is being watched over by our town administrator, whoever that's going to be. And so if it's Dawn or whomever is next, that's going to be looking at these, who's responsible or keeping track of this stuff, then that if he's the person tapping into the state right now to keep track of it all, then this makes perfect sense to keep in there.
Right.
Well, and we could also go to our legislators. I mean, we have a, supposedly extremely powerful.
Okay, can we move
Legislator.
off this one?
Yeah.
And then the next new goal, for your consideration, is reuse of Twin Springs 9-hole golf course. She had an idea of creating a municipal partnership to operate the former site of the Twin Springs golf program.
Well, it's noble.
but isn't that still owned? Isn't that still owned by?
It is.
Yes,
national people?
it's owned by them, but unutilized right now.
Right.
Well, that's certainly worth looking into, but I don't know whether it's appropriate for the master plan. But
I would make it a general thing and tie the Boy Scouts, the RFK property, and other privately held recreation property, and leave it at that.
Right. So we've got 2 532s and we got 531 kind of out of place. It does sound like, I agree with Bob, it's something fairly generic here.
Okay, so just incorporate
yeah, into that.
and
Just
other
throw in,
private.
yeah, collaborate with the Boy Scouts,
And the state
state
Or-
and
and private owners.
private owners. Leave it at that.
Yes. Yes.
Of potential recreational properties. Yeah, that's great.
And then take these out. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll hold that so I know to.
Okay, and get rid of the one above it or below it or,
Well,
oh, get rid of the 532 above it, right?
yes.
Well, I'm gonna pull these out and put them in the table, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever.
Okay,
And then the next, just require additional maintenance assistance.
Well,
And
that goes to Bob's comment about, the trails people. Basically, 5 people maintaining 47 miles of trails. And I know DPW, we appreciate what they do. They have limited interest, it seems, in doing, things like lawn maintenance at the town common. So we were hoping for irrigation, but I think that's fallen through.
well, I don't want to get into that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what the status of that is.
Well, it was supposed to be sustainable grass.
Mhm.
Yep.
And my understanding is that the issue was that the person who volunteered the grass seed was considered to be the one who decided what kind
No,
of grass
I
it was.
decided.
think- Oh, you did? Oh, okay.
I was the one who said, if we're so concerned about water, isn't it very interesting that the town is now developing its own aerial watering system? End of discussion. Let's do it the right way. Let's put in sustainable grass. Let's
There you go.
spend the money to do it. And everybody agreed. So unless there's been a change to what Don and I agreed with
Nope.
Lisa in the room,
Go
that's
for it.
Oh, so that's the sustainable grass? I thought it was, okay.
No, and it's expensive.
Probably is.
And that was rolled into the budget.
So these were the next set of comments are from the town administrator. They all seem to be covered by existing goals and objectives, so I didn't really have anything to add. I don't know
Could
we
you just go up
necessarily.
the business of parking at the common?
Oh, that was, yeah.
Okay,
I didn't do anything with that one. It didn't
Thank you.
seem
Don't.
appropriate. Okay.
it's one of those things, I love you, now change.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
How are you gonna deal?
I have skin in the game on that.
Since the last I knew, the committee thought that it was important to have a capital planning committee. How do we want to deal with the town administrator's comment that he doesn't want to have a committee because they don't know what they're doing, in a way that is sort of the town fighting back against volunteers?
We decided to keep it general. I think we talked about this at maybe the last meeting, and
I
we
think we
landed
just
on-
leave it the way it is.
yeah, develop
Okay,
a
that's
capital
fine.
planning process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But does that mean that comment is gonna stay, or will that?
No, these
comment go
comments aren't
away?
going in the plan.
No,
They're
they're not
just
going
notes from
anywhere.
our
Oh,
interview.
okay,
Yeah.
all right, I'm sorry, all right.
but again, your
Gotcha.
point is well taken, Ken. And Don's correct. It fell apart and there was no leadership. And that's where we got to fix a much bigger problem.
Right, and I think it's smart to leave it in as a process, because
Yep.
there is a process. It could involve other people, but you've got to have some amount of historical knowledge too, to be
Yep.
wise about how you make recommendations on that committee.
Okay, I
But-
got you.
But it has to be a process, Dasha.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, moving on.
The next was DPW. The same thing. I kind of associated these with existing goals, so I wasn't suggesting any changes.
Right.
If you want to look through those, and I'll
There's
send them off
something
to
about-
Randy.
Is there something about the trail? Did you flash by?
Yeah, it
Is
was
there
there.
something?
Yeah, he
What's
doesn't think
the-
we should add any more trails until they
Why?
have people to take care of them.
And I agree with it.
Number 2 here.
Okay.
Yeah. And to expand the trails and not maintain them is a great way to make sure that people can justifiably stand up at town meeting and say, why are we buying more conservation land?
I agree. I agree.
This one was from the library. Kelly Collins was interviewed. She would like to see more social media utilized to publicize events. So I just added a new goal.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
So-
ongoing, right?
Yeah, they're doing that right now.
Yeah, they're doing it right now.
I
I
think
would-
she wanted it more broadly
Broadly,
utilized by
yes.
everyone.
Yeah, and I think there is the
we-
new group that's formed and the actions of the community, Facebook page and all that are all headed in that direction.
And
They-
Kristen, you're part of that, right?
Yes, and actually we just started something new. Where and I've talked with Kelly, I've talked with some of the library people. It's sort of a new effort, a sort of a welcome wagon effort. And I didn't want to take any meeting time, but we could also touch on volunteerism. So the goal of this new welcome wagon effort, it's called Hello Bolton, and it's digital, but it's also going to go to new residents. And the goal is to really connect them with volunteer opportunities, and also to promote the library and other, the Trails Committee, you name it, to just give it to them in a really packageable, user-friendly format, so it's digital. There's a QR code. People can go to the website. I'll send this around so you can see what I'm talking about. But it's pretty new, and we just are starting it literally this, the next couple of weeks. I've talked to realtors, so we're going to get a packet for them. I'll send you this too. And basically, it's just a way to kind of be in touch with people as they move into town, to tell them about the volunteer opportunities, about the Bolton, just to kind of make them feel more connected. And I think, this is brought up by somebody who was fairly new to town. She just felt like she didn't know anyone. She didn't know where to go. And, like you brought up, Bob, when in the beginning, years ago, people had to volunteer and they did volunteer. Now people are so detached because they're so busy. We got, people working both parents are working, whatever it is. Anyway, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I will send an email to everybody about some things that we're going to be doing with the library to promote the library. I mean, Tim's doing a great job. He's, now doing more social media, but with this new Hello Bolton program, the goal will be to really funnel all the volunteer opportunities and all the library happenings and things that are really easy for people to consume and feel like it's news they can use. Like, here's where you to take your kids tomorrow, and here's how to volunteer on the trails. I've worked with Drew, to promote that, but I think this will be one new avenue that's making it really user friendly, and maybe posting the opportunities in a way that they can really see how much they can, bite off. To me, I like the idea of like a sign up genie for some of these, things, so they know exactly what needs to be done, how much time they put in. And, somebody like Drew could actually oversee something like, okay, I need volunteers to do, work on this Saturday, just help us do this. And if somebody knows, that they could come in on a Saturday and work from 9 to noon, and that might be enough, they might actually sign up for it. I think the hard part about Bolton is there are too few volunteers. And so people are afraid to sign up for something because they don't know if it's going to be this long-term contract with the town. And I don't mean contract, but they might feel that way. Sometimes if you volunteer, you get sucked into, hours and hours,
Like the master
How
plan.
40,
Ken,
45
right?
years, you mean?
Exactly. I mean, and you guys
That's
have
right.
been, I think it is worrisome because you guys have been such heavy lifters for so many years. Nobody new to town really understands that. And like you say, I mean, they feel like, oh, Bolton functions. And the only reason it's functioning is because there are people, volunteers like you guys, who are really doing a lot of heavy lifting. So I think, it might just be, something where we have to give people bite-sized portions of how to volunteer. Then if they choose to do more, hopefully they will. I don't know what the solution is, but I do feel like people are afraid to volunteer because it might become a part-time job.
Yeah, but
Which
there's
Yeah,
an
so-
important factor. There's an important factor. We really need to identify people coming from outside of New England who have
Mhm.
come from environments with big county governments where there has not been that kind of volunteerism needed, where the counties take care of things. There's much bigger systems outside of New England. And if they're from out of this area, we really need to try to help them understand the total difference as to what they've come into. All right, this little town, it's going to have to do everything by itself, and that leads to, I think, an understanding of the importance of the volunteerism
Yeah,
versus
so
where it's all taken care of by the county, for wherever they came from.
Mhm.
So you have to get the word out. So Heather Goodsell at the COA uses Sign Up Genius for getting volunteers. She has a big list of people, and when something and it's given a specific date, a specific time, and it's just a very simple application to use, and it works.
Who has this
Yeah.
Currently?
So Heather Goodsell over at the COA.
Yes.
I
Okay.
work with her for Friends of Bolton Seniors when we do events. If we need volunteer help, she'll just send out through Sign Up Genius, the request.
Yeah, we use it for school stuff all the time.
Sure, exactly. I'm not saying it's a simple solution. It won't be, but I think
Well,
I'd like to incorporate it somehow. I mean, it'd be nice to be able to incorporate it, and expand it for something like a trails committee or for something like that, where it's not, obviously you're going to need experts like someone like Drew or Heather. I mean, there's certain people that are obviously the key core people that are experts, but if they are able to delegate tasks for volunteers in these smaller chunks, like a Sign Up Genie would offer, that it just might help. I'm not saying it's a solution, but there is a section in this Hello Bolton website that I created that does talk about town government, because I'm actually one of those people. We had an alderman. The towns I've been from are all huge. We had aldermen, we had mayors, we had all that stuff. And coming here, I actually laughed when I saw that there was a constable. I'm like, what?
Right.
What's that? I thought that's something from the 1800s or something. So, I identify with those type of people, and a lot of people are coming from those areas where it's like, oh, what do you mean I have to, help our town function? What do you mean? So it's an issue. So, but there is a section in the website, and so I think we could promote that more, like, in a way, just sort of package it so that that's right up front. Like, if you're coming into Bolton, and when we do a little bit of that on the website, but I won't take any more meeting time, but I will send you guys a link to everything that we're planning on.
Good. Sounds like a great initiative.
Hmm.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think it'll be
moving
fun.
on.
The next comment Kelly had was she found a need. There's a great deal of requests put into the library for the community meeting room from various organizations, and she has a hard time satisfying that meeting space. She felt there would be a good need for some sort of shared community space. And she
If it
mentioned
really-
19 Carter Street in Berlin, which hosts not only committees, but also fun public events that are available to local residents, not just specifically to Berlin, but the area.
More
Right.
fuel for the community center fire.
Yeah.
Is the library really booked that much? That room often seems empty. I'm puzzled.
I was going to say.
No,
I
it
would
is.
just use
It's
it
hard.
more.
It's hard to get. Reserve a room, especially
is.
in the evening.
Okay.
Although it's part of the issue is, and I don't know if this has changed, there's been a rule that any organization can only get X number of meetings, can only reserve the room X number of times. So you can't, for example, say I'd like to have a monthly meeting on the third Thursday.
That's fair.
That's not, it's simply not allowed.
That's fair.
Okay, I mean, I think
So-
we've discussed this.
Yeah.
There is a need for a community resource
No-
Right.
for more meetings. Okay, can we move on to February 22nd?
This was Rebecca. Most of her comments were incorporated into the goals that we've already reviewed. And these are just notes kind of
Okay.
Okay,
to clarify things. She wanted a sustainability definition because she points out that sustainability can mean a variety of things to a variety of people. And so she thought it better it be clearly defined so we knew what specifically the chapter was referencing for the climate change.
Okay.
So I just put a note, we can incorporate that definition into the climate chapter. It didn't make sense to put it in the implementation
did she have a definition?
No, she did not.
I would think it would come from her.
I didn't request
Who
it.
else? Okay. Who else?
Well, somebody's got to research that then.
Yeah.
It's a good idea, but
And these are just comments to, she had some suggestions for high priority items, so I just automatically incorporated those into the priority table. And
Okay,
so
go
there
ahead.
weren't really any goal recommendations,
Okay.
changes for that. And then the next was the fire department.
Okay.
Most of his items also were covered by existing goals. The Neshoba Regional Dispatch studies. That he just noted some clarification of some informational facts. I think they can be incorporated into the chapters. He also informed us that he's done some CERT training for 2 classes, and
Yeah.
like we've discussed here, volunteers seem to kind of die off and don't continue their participation. So that was the reasoning for that not continuing and being available.
Well, that's, and again, I think that's publicity. I have no idea what the CERT program is. And that's really, that's my problem. But it sure would be nice if, as part of what Kristen and her team are putting together, if that kind of information were out there, because I would assume that people would be interested in doing that.
Yeah.
Anyway, move on.
Yeah, that was part of this chapter's implementation, is to
Right.
expand public outreach, so that's in there as well already.
Yep.
And
Um,
one of the issues and one of the needs for that is in case of emergencies. Like that gigantic ice storm that we had several years ago.
Yep,
There's a shortage of people
right.
who are responsible for helping.
Yeah. Yep. A number
And-
of places have established teams that you can call, and they meet frequently to coordinate communication.
And I think some of that has to be just better communication.
Yeah, and the police and the fire department and the public works department have said that.
He also expressed concern about the staffing levels and the facilities. They don't have bunk rooms or kitchen facilities if the fire department were to go full-time, which he expects will be a need in the foreseeable future. So that was incorporated into the evaluation of the facility needs, but I added a new goal to evaluate the staffing and facility needs of the fire department to service projected growth.
Ah,
Well, cynically, it's kind of strange, isn't it? That
Yeah,
we
don't we have,
built a police station, we spent all that money, then suddenly we did, central dispatching. And you can't get into the building without calling somebody. There's nobody on staff there. again, I'm being a little cynical about this, but you know, high hopes that our new police station was going to be a place where people could come and a shelter, if you will, to somebody who feels in danger. And that isn't there due to that centralization. So you think there'd be spare rooms all over the place. I
Yeah,
could be
no.
wrong. Sounds like some kind of, as it says, evaluate the facility. Absolutely. We should definitely look at it. And, you know, is it being used intelligently right now?
Yeah, that's a room that we used to use a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we used to use that, yes, so.
I thought originally that training room was going to have an outside access so we didn't have to, you know, go through the police all the time. But obviously never happened.
Okay,
Okay.
where are we?
So I'll add, that sounds like we should add that then.
Yep.
All right.
And it really,
Um,
and that's ironic because that really was, I mean, even the Lions Club used to meet there.
Yeah, exactly. All right, 621.
Okay, this was a meeting with the Council on Aging. Both Lisa and Heather were interviewed and we went through goals with them. They say they get a lot of complaints from their population they work with about sidewalks not being ADA compliant and that seniors don't feel comfortable using them. So I simply just added ADA compliant sidewalks to the existing goal.
Sure.
Yep.
And that should be pickleball courts or a walking track, not of a courts of a walking
you're right.
track.
I probably end.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
although I kind of like pickleball courts on a walking track. Multitasking.
We're working on 2 for the Memorial Field. We are.
Ah,
and we're-
And then recreational needs, she said there's not much for them to do or participate in, so I just added a new recreation goal. Ed, if you have input on this, to ensure the senior demographic is incorporated into active recreational needs assessments.
we are a significant portion of the population.
Indeed.
And
how is that rolled into community center?
Well, it could be.
it could be.
I think that's more appropriate, you know,
Back in
rather than
recreation.
having it spread out, you know.
Back in recreation.
Yeah, I mean, let's take all the recreation related activities that could be incorporated in a broad definition of a community center and put them together, which will hopefully develop an active constituency that'll do something.
So it's just a matter of
Multi
moving them back
generation.
into section 5.3.
Yeah,
I would just do a cut and paste later.
yeah.
Put it back in the 5 section.
That 534.
Yeah, just make a note to
Just
cut and paste.
Yeah,
Okay,
there's
I'm sorry.
there's
I'm
a reasonable
confused.
amount of there's a reasonable amount of grumbling amongst the senior
Yeah.
folks in town, that we get, you know, one room, you know, and not we rent a room in a residential area.
It's terrible. Absolutely
it's-
terrible.
okay, can we move on? I also have heard this for 45 years.
You bet.
Maybe time to do something about it.
Yeah, there you go.
Aha.
I'm sorry, my time was building a common. I'm
Mm,
out of that business.
we thank you.
Well-
We thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But there are others here.
So they identified a need to host medical events, conduct some services for the elderly residents. A lot of them need podiatrist visits, haircuts, that type of thing. And there are many abutting senior centers that offer these services and they don't have the space to provide them. So I
That's
added a
correct.
new goal specifically to
All right.
call that out.
It strikes me as another evaluate the, you know, layout and usage of the space at the senior center.
Yeah,
I think
I
there
just
is.
wanted
I think there is space. But my
There
two
is-
cents-
There isn't. I mean,
No.
there's no center. It's somebody else's living room.
Well, no, I'm
No,
sorry.
that's
Sharon,
not true.
Two issues. Community
Oh.
center, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
community
Use
center,
of
that's
Bolton
fine.
Manor for things like a podiatrist, they do have space. I
Ah.
don't think they're using it
Ah.
That's
properly.
right. I
Oh,
agree.
okay.
They, the space they use are the offices for both Lisa and Heather. It's
They-
not like there's a dedicated space
There used to be the computer room upstairs. They
that's
got out of
gone.
Okay, let's
That's
not get
gone.
into an assessment,
All right.
space assessment of the COA.
Absolutely.
Let's make it specific that we're gonna go get space as part of a community center or some other municipal or private space to provide these services to the seniors,
Senior services. Excellent.
right?
Excellent.
And
Okay,
then the technology aspect would fit into that as well.
Yes.
And then they also express need for a social worker. And a lot of
Ooh.
regional board of health organizations provide this service through, like similar to Neshoba, but though Neshoba doesn't have it, I know the Worcester Regional Health Alliance has it, and the Leominster Regional Health Alliance has both hired social workers to provide these types of services. So I added a new goal just for consideration.
Okay.
Hmm.
well, we do have a member of the board, right? On the Neshoba Associated Boards of Health.
Yeah, I don't think they offer social worker services
No,
within
no,
their
but-
organization.
That's the
Town
way
clerk.
to get them to do so.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I thought that was an important one, especially for that demographic. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
I added the goal. All right, and that was it.
Okay, let's move on to the review of the one pager for climate change. My commitment is to have that in Cindy's hands tomorrow morning.
Wow.
Not that
That's
there
the
was any
third time I've
pressure.
said that.
I know.
Is it there? I mean, here we go.
It was sent
All right.
out in print if you had it too.
Right, and I actually sent in some corrections or changes,
Excellent.
which I don't see here, but
Right.
I thought this
I
was
knew
it.
you were, I knew
Oh,
you
is
were
this it?
working on that goals and objectives part, Sharon. So my changes are mostly in the did you know area.
Oh, I thought these were from Sharon. These
No.
are from you?
No, they're from Tony.
These are from me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Sharon, where are you? Do you want to review these or?
okay, I haven't seen this, so
Hey Sharon, you and I need to have a session on using Google Docs.
Yes.
yes.
Because
Yes,
it's,
I
I mean,
find them-
it's one of the things that really will slow this all down is if people provide their own individual markups. And that's why Google Docs is so great for collaboration. It tracks them all. You can comment on comments. There are all sorts of neat things you can do with them, and they're all there in one document.
Right.
Okay,
I used Google Docs earlier. I did some changes to the planning document on so
I think I actually did use Google Docs today.
Okay, well, can we
So
find your comments?
I
See, we couldn't,
I don't
couldn't get
know.
into
I don't-
your, I couldn't get into your comments.
oh, you couldn't.
that
I
you
couldn't
sent.
either.
Yeah, I
I
had
couldn't
Oh,
either.
bugger.
same
Yeah, I
here.
don't-
Yeah, it was
Access issues.
yeah, it was blocked
Right.
access from your Hartford.
Yeah. the
Oh.
Log on.
University, I ran into the same
That was the
problem.
problem.
Oh,
Right.
I'm sorry. That's something I didn't.
Well, do you have a copy of it? Do you have a copy of it on your computer now? you
Not
could
on
share
this,
your screen.
not on this one. So I would have
'Cause you
to.
could share your screen, but
Well, hey,
Okay, let's
folks,
see.
this has got to go out tonight.
Okay. Let's do what we can.
Okay. I can hold, I'm gonna go upstairs and, oh wait, I have my changes in front of me. Okay,
I found this document in PDF and I didn't have the tool to convert that to Doc, or
Okay.
I would have done it on Google Docs.
Okay, thanks. Tony, Pam, why don't you bring up Tony's, and since his are available in front of us, let's talk
Okay.
about those and then we'll get to Sharon.
Right.
And Sharon, you can bring yours up as we're going through Tony.
Okay, well, I have to send it from another computer. I'm going away now.
Okay, so if we can bring up Tony's.
Yeah, I'm trying to
Okay.
find.
Thanks, Pam. This is why I love Google Docs.
Yeah.
It's all in one place.
Okay, and I thought I actually had it, so let's see if I do have it. Whoops, daisy.
All right, I have it. Sorry about that.
Okay,
No
whoops,
problem.
Pull it up.
where is it? No, I think I've lost you. Good grief.
So these changes are mostly corrections and getting the history right and the names correct, so people will recognize these programs for what they were. And plus some grammar and spelling corrections,
Okay.
like my name.
That's always embarrassing, Tony.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, so these are pretty straightforward. We actually received a grant on Solarize Mass through the CEC. And the biggest omission here was that all of the heat pump, the Heat Smart Alliance and the Heat Smart words were not here. So I wanted to add that big paragraph up there at the top called A. I try to keep the words, I realize this is bordering on being not fitting in one page. I assume you can select the font.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
9 point.
Yes. Narrow margin.
Yeah, so and it kind of fits. I mean, in 2018, we go from 2017 to 2018. We teamed with Harvard, received the Heat Smart grants from CEC, and today the heat pump efforts continue under Heat Smart Alliance. And I have to say that after working with the home heating and cooling and hot water for these years, that it's a much more challenging problem than the Solarize was. There was a much more standard interface with Solarize. You know, you just add panels on the roof and hook them up to the power panel. But in the heat pump area, there are many, many differences. Every house is different, and it takes a lot more attention to detail to get it right. So
Yeah, I can imagine.
I think it's worth mentioning here.
Okay.
Otherwise, the last bullet there, I don't know whether that was meant to be Harvard or.
It is
Yeah.
Harvard. It's supposed to be
Yes,
Harvard.
Devon's in Harvard.
Okay.
Right.
And then I just had one change down below there. I wanted to get in a point about getting the opt-in to the specialized building code. And I knew that Sharon was working on other changes in this area, so I didn't make any other changes in that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I do not know how to pull up the Google Doc, so I'm gonna have to tell you what I did here.
Okay.
Okay.
So, in goal 1, we're going to hit this.
Well, these goals are from the implementation matrix.
Okay.
So if we change them here, they should be changed from and just be aware they're going to be changing the other table as well.
And
Okay.
maybe some of them we already changed and need to be reflected here.
Might be.
Let's
Yep.
not change things.
Okay, well, I mean, if this needs to
spend all the
go
time on
in,
it.
yeah, it's just, so what I said is, under goal 1, for second sentence, this includes addressing minimizing contributions to climate change and mitigating its effects through a dedicated energy conservation committee, charged with data gathering. which I just thought was making it somewhat more straightforward. Right?
But I thought we didn't want to have a specific committee.
Yeah, I thought we wanted, let's leave it open and figure out what ultimately we want for the scope of the
Right.
committee.
Who's going to do it? It's the problem.
Yeah.
We've agreed all night.
Well, okay.
Well, I guess
It's just a little bit of the houses on fire thing here. I think we do need a dedicated committee.
Well, we do, and just call it a
No?
dedicated committee.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's in the goals. These are it's already in the goals of the full matrix.
Yeah.
We just don't have
Okay.
it on the one pager.
Okay, so
Okay.
just to be clear on that, so goals 1 through 5 are the should be the same as what they are in the matrix that we just reviewed.
Right.
Yes.
So I
Okay.
just looked
Okay,
through
so-
that, Ken, and goal 2 is not.
Yeah, they're
No,
gonna
I'm
have
not
to
saying
be.
they're the same, but
They're
so that this
close.
whole thing needs to be, my point is, we don't need to wordsmith these.
Right.
We simply need to put in what's in the matrix, and if we already all agree
And that's
to
it.
the matrix,
Right.
I think we pretty well have it
Yeah.
set.
Correct.
Okay, and in some cases, and we may have to look at this, Pam, sorry.
Yep.
We need to consolidate some of the descriptions under the bullets. And certainly the last time around, I did that. I consolidated some,
Okay.
okay?
Okay,
But
but what we
I-
have, all right, I'm going
To
to make
Ken's point, though, they
a
have to be
generalized
the
comment.
same.
Right.
Sharon, I'm
Uh,
sorry, what?
Yeah, about style here, but just saying that one of the things that I was trying to address is what I consider to be generalities that were not being made specific. So in goal 2, for example, instead of just saying that particular sentence, to say achieving the state's clean energy and sustainability goals, since we're doing this for the general public, to say for net zero carbon by 2050.
And that's
Because
what is
people
in-
reading this in the newspaper are not going to know what those
Yeah.
state clean
Isn't that
energy
what we said?
sustainability goals.
So guys, listen, it's in this
It's in it already.
matrix,
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
but
So-
it's not
so-
in
so
the
don't
one
worry
page
about
of Sharon's
What's
point.
written here, worry about what's in the matrix.
Yeah.
So, but
We've already approved what's
but
in the
is this
matrix.
the document that's going to the newspaper?
Yes,
It has to be revised to reflect the changes made
we've
in the
already
climate
made.
section.
Which
it-
Pam's gonna do.
It's
Yep.
gonna basically be word for
Ah.
word. What's
Okay,
in
Yeah,
so
the
because I
matrix.
hear you, Sharon. That's what I caught that too.
it's like, wait a second, all right, so
Sorry,
so this is not the document that is going to the newspaper that
Yes,
has to
it
go
is.
in. But with the
when it is
with-
revised to
when it
reflect,
is revised, yes,
Right.
so not
then
this.
it goes out,
Okay, so
okay?
so we should be looking at what's back there to see what this looks like.
Yes. So for example,
But you've
Sharon, on
already-
goal number 2,
We've already
it says
approved those.
it says
Okay.
in this implementation matrix, which is what Pam's going to update this goal to reflect working toward achieving the Commonwealth Sustainable Development Principles and net zero emission goals. That's what hasn't been quite made it into this document, but it is in the implementation matrix. And I believe I just heard Bob say to Pam, hey, can you make sure those are updated?
Right.
Okay, so what else is there? So I have that again done under goal 5, which is utilize zoning bylaws and subdivision regulations to protect and enhance climate resilience and achieve net zero carbon emissions. So that's, reiterating
But
that.
did we put that in the matrix is the question.
I
If we
don't
didn't,
remember if we
then-
did it in the
then
matrix.
it should
No.
be-
No.
Well, it should either,
It
we
should be,
should
it should
agree
be
or
there
not agree to put
again.
it there, but-
This is critical, right? So goal 5, first sentence, saying to protect and enhance climate resilience and achieve net zero carbon emissions. What I was noticing here is in some cases vagueness instead of specificity. And specificity is what's necessary, what's needed here.
Well, yes, but when we get down to the detailed implementation, that's where the specificity comes to bear.
But we're
As we're
giving
talking
this as a,
about general goals, right?
but the general, this is a public relations thing. We're putting this in the newspaper. We need to tell them what we're doing. And
Well, just a
and
minute,
saying-
but keep in mind,
Yeah,
no, I agree with that, but at the same time, in the context of publicity, if we get very specific and haven't run this by a number of other people before this is a published thing, we're potentially in a lot of trouble, right? For identifying something very specific
Right.
that we haven't reached agreement on with those people with whom we must reach agreement. So leaving a little wiggle room is great to emphasize what we want to do, but at the same time, give us the available latitude to provide the specificity later. Right?
This has come up in the past. We've talked about the danger of this. You must do this. You must do that. You know, everyone is required to do this. That does not fly. That does not fly. We don't get a general agreement on that. We work towards things and we get community buy-in and consensus. So I agree with Bob. We have to be careful about these things when we talk about specifics of you must do this and you must do that. We already talked too about achieving the net zero goal of 2050. It was in one of our discussions, must be 45 minutes ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's all
Yeah.
there.
It's all there. So,
And so whatever was written there will go in here.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, that's the way
So-
we've
so
done
it's
all
going
the
in-
other.
so it's going into this document. Because what I can't tell is you're telling me, don't put specifics in this document, but we're going to put the specifics in this document.
No,
So I'm
we're
not
going to
sure.
put in what goes into this document is what we've already agreed to in the implementation matrix.
That's that's the way we've done all the one pagers.
The goal in it, but the actions don't go in the newspaper right now.
That's right.
It's
So
more
So
informative.
by definition, it's higher level because it's the goal and then has a series of actions under it.
And the title there says current draft. I mean, it doesn't imply that this is the final. No, the current draft for inclusion in master plan.
That's right.
Right.
Yep.
So I think
I think we're good.
I think
I
we're
think
great.
we've discussed all that, and so I think we ought to just go with what was agreed to earlier in the implementation matrix and
And add in what Tony has
add
added.
in the thoughts that have
Sure.
been mentioned up there and declare victory.
Yep.
Okay.
Do we have general agreement on that? Thank you.
Go for it.
Yeah,
Great.
and just make sure that Pam checks that one, or sorry, Pam, you're right here with us. That goal number 2 just needs to include that net zero reference.
Right. Okay, the last, and let's see, what time is it? Oh dear.
Only
7 minutes of
8:54.
9. The last thing is the existing conditions review. I don't know how many people have looked at that. I guess I have a bigger question. I think it's well written, but it's very, very long. And I go back to what I said probably 8 months ago, and that is that we need to understand better how the existing conditions element plus the narrative that is supported by the implementation plan, and all of that preceded by an executive summary fits together. And Pam, if you can talk to Olivia and see if we can get kind of an outline of that, which I've asked for quite a while, of how all of this fits together. Because walking right into the existing conditions report, will put people to sleep.
Oh, I found it fascinating personally,
Yeah, well, Ken,
but
with all due respect,
maybe because I was there for all of this, I don't know.
I know.
But I don't know, Pam, if you've seen it, but But there was one place I found that paragraph ended with the word "to" when there was clearly additional thoughts that were supposed to be there.
Hmm.
And so I flagged that with a comment. So take a
did
look
see that,
in,
yeah.
in that. Okay.
Yep.
I haven't finished everything, but I thought it was fascinating personally.
Yeah, I thought it was very good. Again, get back to the whole discussion of new people coming to town.
Right.
I'm absolutely convinced we need a high level introduction executive summary.
Oh,
that
absolutely.
explains the background.
Absolutely.
And then you
Yep.
go into existing conditions, you go into a narrative on recommendations, and then you finally go to the implementation matrix. And I'm looking for not necessarily that write-up, but keep in mind, we have 92 days. That we really need an outline of where that's going, because we're gonna be real pressed to review all of this stuff and get it to the relevant boards for review and approval.
Okay.
So Pam, if you can talk to Olivia, I'd be glad to get involved in that conversation. Let me know. And please, everybody, to Ken's point, read through the thing. I found half a dozen typos, which I corrected in the online version, in the Google Docs version, and I have gotten about a third of the way through. Yeah, I was thinking, reading through it, talking about volunteerism, that the discussions that I get from people about not volunteering is that they're horrendously busy and they have kids. And I think back to when I was horrendously busy and had kids, and my colleagues like Mr. Troop were horrendously busy and had kids. And somehow or other, we managed to volunteer, get on committees, spend a lot of late nights and a lot of Saturday mornings doing it. So I
Amen.
don't buy that excuse.
Absolutely. Absolutely correct. Boy,
Sorry, Bob, can I ask a quick question?
Sure,
The existing conditions report, that's the 54-page document, correct?
that's it.
All right, cool. I just haven't had a chance to read it in its entirety, and I want to weigh in when I have done that, so.
And it's very well done. I'm not saying that it isn't an excellent document. And actually, what's interesting is, for those of us who are not Ken Troop, you learn a lot by reading through it. So, by all means, do. If you think things that are incorrect, identify those. Okay, do we have a wrap?
amen, brother.
I have two quick things, really super
Okay.
quick. I promise they're super quick. The first is that I found that information, and I'm not going to go through it now, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. I will forward it to Pam, and she can forward it to the group on the buy down of existing affordable housing units.
Oh,
So that
great.
I found it in the housing production plan, and it has numbers with it. So I will forward that to you guys. And honestly, if you want to make it a medium or a high or a low, I wouldn't put it as high, but if you wanted a medium or a low, I would be amenable to that. So just, for further
Okay.
discussion or whatever you guys want to do with it, it's there. The information's there. I will forward it to Pam. The second thing was I have the statistics from the 609 folks that responded to it was actually to the survey that we did in May of 2020, that we got a really good response from the town, the online survey. And the last question, question 28, was, would you be more likely to participate in the town meeting if it occurred on a Saturday? And there were 515 people that answered that question. 46% of them said yes. 53, almost 54% said no. So I only offer that up to the committee as it is like 50-50 almost, and just as an emphasis, I think, there are lots of people who are busy and have different things going on. And I love being on this committee because everybody is working so hard together. And I think our town just has a lot of different things. Like, how do I put it? I think we just have to look at trying to prioritize the town for one day.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah,
and,
no.
and Sasha, you have to, you change the wording on that to say, if all of the sports events were not held, or none of the sports events were held on that day, on that Saturday,
Would it make a difference?
would it make a difference? And
Yep.
I think that would make a significant difference.
And
Yeah.
and I think you, to your point, don't put a Band-Aid on something, or like, I mean, we can go like this all day, right? Like, okay, so let's talk to the soccer league, and let's talk to the, you know, and see where, you know, start to work, to truly work towards a solution. Whereas just changing it to a Saturday, or just changing it to
No.
a Tuesday, or just, you know, keeping it out as a Monday, like, you know, there's got to be a more
You
kind
have
of
to
powerful
coordinate. You have to
solution.
coordinate with all the
Yeah.
sports teams.
Hey,
You have to-
Stasha, you think about running for Congress?
Ooh,
Hey, I
No,
haven't even
no,
been able to get her to
no,
run
no,
for
no,
select
no.
board, so I don't think she'll go for
Right here.
Congress yet.
Okay, well, thank you,
Uh,
everybody.
What about the next, Bob, what about the
next
next
meeting?
meeting?
Next meeting, yeah, can you always remind me about that? What is the date if we use our normal calendar?
Which is the fourth Thursday,
Yeah,
April 25th.
yeah, feel free, I won't be here.
Oh,
hmm.
What about the 18th?
No, I'll be in Europe that whole time.
Well, not that we can do without you, but do you want
No,
us to
you
meet
can do it
without
without me.
you? Do you want to meet
Oh.
without you?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
Okay, so what would people,
25.
and when does the select board meet during?
Yeah, I was gonna ask
April.
that too.
Let me take a
Because it
look.
would be good if we could have Brian.
Sure would.
it's going to
um,
be right before town meeting too, right?
Well, town meeting's not till May
Fifth or something.
6th,
Sixth.
so
So the
we
20,
certainly would want to have it be
Fifth.
before that.
yeah. No, yeah.
What about Bob, are you around April 11th?
Yeah, I believe I am.
The select board's meeting April 11th.
Well, I mean, we don't necessarily have to have it on a Thursday, right?
Right.
We don't have an article for the town meeting, right?
No.
So it's just that we need to finish our work by
I'm
the end of
worried about the
June,
end
but-
game
or
here.
when it is. Well, I understand, but we don't have to worry about the town meeting is the point.
No, we don't.
So would it make sense to meet on the 11th then, to go over the existing conditions report?
Yeah, I think
And
that
the-
would be okay.
The
Yeah,
introduction
And
should be in
anything
there
else we
too.
have.
Oh, good, Pam. Thank you.
And if we could discuss, if we could discuss the executive summary, that would probably be good as well.
yes.
Because I think, I guess, Bob, do you see Olivia as being the one who drives the way the outline should be, or that perhaps we should give her an outline?
No, I think she should give it to us.
Okay.
And we can be prepared to have that conversation, having reviewed it and being able to
Okay.
make,
Okay.
pertinent suggestions.
Okay,
So
so,
whatever date it is, I mean, she has to precede that by an awful lot more than 24 hours.
well, yeah.
I mean, that's one of our
Well,
problems.
what I was gonna say is, if Pam's gonna ask her for that outline, could we ask her to have that outline so that we could discuss it on the 11th
Yes,
and agree
Yeah.
to what that was gonna be?
I mean, that's 2 weeks, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Certainly, I mean, it should not be really difficult having written the existing conditions and put together the implementation matrix to look at the two other elements, which is the narrative that describes what we have come up with in an implementation matrix, and then overall executive introduction that covers the whole works.
And
Now, since
the,
Olivia is very
okay.
familiar with it.
now you were talking about, well, were you talking about actually having a discussion with her about how that should be done? Or just having her do it as a homework
Having
assignment
her
and
do it.
provide it? Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
I think it's pretty straightforward. I hope.
okay. Well, why don't we, so should we ask her to bring it to the April 11th meeting?
No, I'd like to see it before that.
Before that, okay.
Yeah.
Well, Pam, why don't you see what she can, if she can do something in the next week or week and a half?
Yeah, did you see the introduction that was distributed already?
I
talking to
have
me or to
admit I
Bob?
didn't.
The committee in general, it was it should have been attached as a PDF in the email that was just sent out recently
Oh,
with
I
the,
did not get a chance
Was
to
it
look
sent
at
out
it.
today, Pam?
it was sent out with yesterday, I think, with the existing
Okay, no, I did not
conditions
see
report.
that.
No, I haven't seen it.
It's in
No.
this same email as the existing
Okay.
conditions.
Okay.
I
Okay,
did
that's
see
great.
it. I just haven't,
Okay,
I haven't had a
yeah.
chance to read it.
Yeah,
Is
no,
that
I
the one-
haven't either.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, don't feel
Thank you for that.
Is
Wow,
that
she
the
was
one
really
called
quick on
Climate
that.
Resistance Bulletin Information?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Is it the document that you called Climate Resilience Bulletin Information?
No,
No,
it's
no.
actually called introduction.
Oh, introduction.
Yep.
Okay. Is it also in the Google Drive?
I don't know if I got them in there yet. I
Did
think
you do
so.
that? And
Yep.
just let us know.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry.
Okay,
love
well,
that
everybody should,
documents
if
in one
everybody
place.
reviews those, then we should be able, then she should be able to. Or either we should be able to know whether that constitutes the outline needed or
Right.
not.
So for the sake of clarity, I just want to make sure I've got the introduction, the executive summary, and the existing conditions are the three documents that I'm reviewing before next meeting.
We don't
No,
have
the
an executive
doesn't
summary.
exist yet.
Okay.
So
So
it's the introduction.
existing consistent conditions and introduction.
Right.
Okay.
How long, well, no, I'll go look at it. I'm just wondering how long the intro is.
Hold on, I have it.
Don't worry about it. It is what it is. Okay, so we're all in agreement. We're gonna meet on the 11th. We're gonna review the introduction. You're gonna talk to her about the executive summary, and try to get that out for a review so we can have a conversation about the introduction and the executive summary.
Yes,
And then everybody needs to review in detail the existing conditions report.
Great.
All right, good.
Okay,
That's a wrap.
sounds good.
Okay, anybody opposed to ending this
Motion to
wonderful
adjourn.
conversation? Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Good
have a good
night.
night.